So there I was. So there I was, 10:30 p.m., sitting half reclined on a cheap motel bed, the nauseous smell of cheap weed and stale cigarettes surrounding me. And in my lap was a 20-year-old transgender kid from Memphis having a hard time sleeping. On the floor was a kid who'd been struggling with his sexuality since he was 9. He's passed out asleep. And as I stroked this kid's head, push his hair back to kiss him on the forehead, I asked myself, how did this kid break past my defenses and get a hold of my heart? Why am I here? What is going on? See, I met this kid through another friend of mine in this crazy situation where she was in the hotel room and a John had poisoned her drink. And so the statement is, if you ever get in trouble, you call Leroy. If you ever get in trouble, you call Leroy and he'll come. So she's all messed up and she doesn't know, and this transgender kid, all he knows is call Leroy and he's gonna come. So I get to the room, I bypass the two pimps that are standing outside, kind of waiting, looking around, trying to make sure what's going on. I get there, she's not in the room. The transgender kid isn't in the room. The other girl that's working with them isn't in the room. They've gone across the street to the gas station to try to get her something to eat, something to drink, and try to get her taken care of. So I go back to the room. I try to get their stuff together, and I say, listen, this is not a safe place. She's all drugged up. I don't even know if I need to take her to the hospital. You guys are coming home with me. The very first conversation that me and this transgender kid have is, listen, I know you're a Christian. I know what you think about me, and I don't want to hear it, so I'm not coming to your house. You can just take them, and I'll make it on my own out here in these streets. I've been doing it for a long time. I don't need you, and I don't need your faith. Fair enough. Fair enough. But let me say this. I would like for you to give me grace as I give you grace. I'm not really concerned right now about your sexual identity. We can talk about that later. Maybe we won't ever talk about that. Right now, what I'm concerned about is that you are 20 years old and you feel like you have to sell yourself in order to have some place to eat and sleep at night. Can we just deal with that tonight? And we'll deal with the other things tomorrow. Can we deal with that? So I call my wife, Janelle, and I say, hey, Jay, I've got 3 kids I'm bringing to the house tonight that don't have anywhere to go. Is that okay? My wife graciously says yes. I have the best wife in the world. She graciously says yes, and so for the next week, I have a sleepover at my house with 3 prostitutes. And we sit up all night and we watch Disney movies, we eat popcorn, we play games, they smoke weed on my back porch while I'm out. They love on my kids, they love on my wife, they cook for us. For a week, we're family. And after a week, it's time for them to go. I have to put them in different programs, see where they're going to end up. But I couldn't find a program for Allie because nobody wants to take a 20-year-old transgender kid who doesn't know what his identity is, if he's a boy or a girl. There's no space for Allie. So I take Allie to the only place there is this hotel where there's some other gay and transgender kids that he knows that he can be safe with. And now it's 10 o'clock at night, and for the first time in a week, Allie realizes that there's nobody to tuck him in at night, and he's starting to freak out, and now he can't sleep, because every night at my house, I tuck all the kids in, I kiss him on the forehead, tell him I love him, and send him to bed. So for the first time in a week, Allie's like, I haven't been kissed on the forehead and tucked in. Can you please come tuck me in before I go to bed? And this kid has broken my defenses. This isn't the first transgender kid that we've dealt with at Serenity Steps. But this is the first one that broke past my defenses, the one that kind of broke past my theological narratives and made them actually become real life. I mean, my seminary training did not really prepare me for having a transgender kid watching The Little Mermaid in my room with my 2 sons, and me having to call this transgender kid Miss Allie, because I'm not really sure how to explain this to a 5.5-year-old, let alone 2 5.5-year-olds. So we'll have to just try to figure out how we're going to deal with that when we get there, because I'm not trying to confuse my 5-year-olds about why this man looks like completely like a woman. We'll deal with that later. But I didn't lose my position in all of this. In fact, the conversation Allie and I had, I said, listen, I need you to give me grace. I probably will not call you a female. I'm going to call you a man. And so we'll deal with why I will do that. We'll deal with that at some point down the road, but that's where I am right now. And the next thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to buy you panties. So when we get to Walmart, we're not doing that. I'm never buying no dude panties. That's just where I am right now. So if you give me grace, I'll give you grace, and we'll be able to figure out how we can make this work. But it was being with Allie and talking with Allie that I realized that my mind needed to be changed in how I approached transgender boys. My theology was the same, but my psychology wasn't the same. I had to learn about stages of change. I watched Allie struggle. I watched him pray out to God, please remove this. I don't even know. But only in that safe place that had been created in our home with me and my wife and my 2 boys. Being in a relationship, my desire to go out and save sex workers and the sexually exploited here in the city of Atlanta opened me up to a place where I was able to be changed in my mind by my interactions with Allie. But not just in my mind, because there's also Tiny and T. So Tiny and T live on Fulton Industrial, and if you know anything about Atlanta and Fulton Industrial is not really the place that you want to be hanging out. So Tiny runs drugs and girls on Fulton Industrial, and T is one of his girls. So one night, I get a phone call that there's a girl missing. Yeah, she's 15 years old. She's probably on Fulton Industrial. We had another organization that was supposed to go out and pass out flyers and put them up, but nobody had done so. Time was running out. We only got a small window to find this girl. So it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and these flyers need to go out. I don't have anybody to go out with me. So I tell my wife, hey, Jay, I need to go put these flyers out on Fulton Industrial. And she's like, babe, I just really don't want you out there by yourself. So I call Tiny and T. And I say, hey, I got to find this little girl. Can y'all help me find this little girl? Again, he runs drugs and women on Fulton Industrial. She is one of his women. So T says, I'll ask Tiny to see what he says. So I drive down to Fulton Industrial, and Tiny has a team of guys follow me around Fulton Industrial as I put up flyers to protect me, to make sure that nothing happens to me while I'm out in the street looking for this little girl. There's another time I was out in Fulton Industrial, and this probably wasn't the wisest thing. I'm going to tell y'all this story. I probably shouldn't, but since y'all friends with Tony, I'm not your friend. But since I'm friends with Tony, I'll tell you, Pastor Tony, I'll tell you guys this story because you're my friends. So this probably wasn't the wisest decision. I got some board members in the room too, so they don't know this story. So it's probably not the best time to tell it. But I'm gonna tell you anyway. It's probably not the wisest time I was out on Fulton Industrial. My office on Fulton Industrial is the Waffle House, and I sit there all night with Kendra and Miss Mary, and we wait on women to come in, and we just do counseling sessions like all night. Just have women coming in and out all night at the Waffle House. And I had missed 2 appointments, but I was sitting there just kind of reading, not paying attention to the time, and it was getting really late, and I was super, super tired. And then T walks in. And T looks at me, and she's like, what are you still doing here? It is 3 o'clock in the morning. You need to go home. And I'm like, you're right. I do need to go home. I am super, super tired, and I probably should not try to drive right now. So T gives me the key to her room, because girls don't sleep where they work. So she gives me the key to her room where she stays, and not the key where she works, so that I can get a quick nap before I go home. Because she was concerned about me driving home and make sure I get home to Janelle and the boys, because T is family. The boys pray for her every night. She stayed with me for 2.5 months before she relapsed and went back to Fulton Industrial. She's like, it's not going to be on my head you get into a car accident on the way. You can stay in my room. Not only has being in community with the sexually exploited and sex workers in Atlanta transformed my mind, transformed my body, but it's transformed my heart. Because then there's Miss Nikki, Mama Nikki, as I call her. Mama Nikki is the house mom at a strip club here in Atlanta. House moms are the ladies who hire and manage the girls who dance there. Mama Nikki's been at this club for about 16 years. I think this is her 16th year at this club. We started doing outreach to house moms about a year ago on Mother's Day because we realized that the house moms are actually the ones that take care of and help the girls move from the club back into life. They're the ones who take care of them and take care of their kids and try to make sure they have everything in their lives that they need to try to get success. But nobody takes care of the house moms. So for Mother's Day, we put together gift baskets to take to the house moms at the clubs here in Atlanta, and we met Mama Nikki, and we just fell in love. And so there was one week when we were doing our outreach, and we were in the room, and it was actually a terrible week. It was probably like one of the worst weeks that I've had since starting Serenity Steps, and just nothing was working. Everything was falling out, and I actually was kind of going through the motions. And so I was in the dressing room, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just talking to Mama Nikki, and she's telling everything, just saying, you know, kind of how the week is going and what life is like and what's going on with the girls and what's going on with her and her fiance and her daughter and her son, and just kind of giving me the rundown. And I stand up, and I get ready to go. And I'm about to walk out of the door, and Mama Nikki stops me, and she says, come back over here. And she grabs both of my hands, and she begins to pray over me. And the girls stop getting dressed, and they all come and lay hands, and they start to pray over me. And then Mama Nikki starts speaking in tongues, and then a church service breaks out in the dressing room at Gold Rush. And I'm like, what is happening? And I start crying and stuff and getting all emotional, and the girls getting all emotional. And don't stop, Leroy. We love you and Nikki and what you guys do. Don't ever stop. We need you. We need you. And in that moment, like Nikki, who was the house mom to all these girls, she became my Mama Nikki. She became a spiritual presence in my life. And so this morning, even before I came out here, Mama Nikki called me, and she said, can I pray with you before you go to the Just Gospel Conference to speak on behalf of our community and our friends? And I welcomed Mama Nikki's prayers. So when I started Serenity Steps in 2007, I had a desire to save trafficking victims here in Atlanta from the evils of human trafficking. Human trafficking is still an issue. It's a human rights issue. There's a lot of thought that needs to be done on it. There's a lot of action that needs to happen around the issue. To tell the truth, it's primarily brown girls and black girls who are being trafficked in the United States. And it's not necessarily the picture that we often have of what it looks like. It's a lot of kids, 90% of whom have been sexually abused by family members or close family members. A lot of them are running away from the foster care system. And so they're the forgotten ones. A lot of them do it, and they claim it. They don't see themselves as being victims. I make these decisions. I chose to do this. You will not take away my autonomy. You will not take away my ability to take care of me and my kids just so that you can play the hero in my story. I did this. I have been surviving. And so I was confronted with that I am only hero support in the stories of the brave men and women and confused of the city of Atlanta. And as I went out to try to save them, God ended up saving me and transforming me. So my message is really simple for everyone today. When you go out and you actually touch, when you actually go and hold hands, when you actually walk into the paranoia and when you walk into the darkness, don't be surprised by the light that you see that is there. Because God was there before you got there. And he has something for you just as much as you have something for them. Thank you so much.